Last one thing I want to talk about is barriers to treatment. So there are lots of barriers to treatment that are here that are, could be considered population based. So things like poverty, as I was saying before. There's differences in stigma. So how much are you actually going to seek care? If you're stigmatized against actually receiving care, having poor health education, so not even knowing that certain things exist. Different provider factors, so if you might not know, so you might have deficits of cross-cultural knowledge or skills, or you may have a different types of patient orientation, so whether or not you are, again, that directive person versus someone just to listen, for example. And then I think we really need to think about those systemic factors, which are very prevalent, such as service location. So again, if you're in a community that doesn't have, a health care system nearby, it may be really hard to get care. But we also have to think about our training and whether or not we're providing culturally competent services. So all of those things can be barriers to treatment and that can affect children in multiple ways. So whether or not you're even getting access to any type of care. Why is culturally competent treatment so important? Well, if we think about our mental health treatment, one of the biggest things that we can do is really making somebody feel heard and understood. And I really like this, right, where, you're a mess and your thoughts are all jumbled and the therapist can help you to kind of pull some of that apart. But, feeling heard and understood is really important. And if we think about this, also our therapeutic alliance is very important, right? So being able to be on the side of that person and wanting them to, having that connection is really important. And one of the things that can be a barrier to that is a lack of cultural competence. So the ability to understand, appreciate, and interact with people from cultures or belief systems different from one's own. So if I think about that, if I've never interacted with somebody from another culture, I might not be culturally competent. I may not, know what they're like. And there's different types of problems that can occur. So, for example, cultural blindness, right? I don't see black and white. What is that phrase? Like, I don't see in black and white, right? So now you're ignoring all differences that exist, or you're ignoring the other person's reality, right? That cultural blindness is actually not helpful in a therapeutic alliance, right? I can't be on your side if I can't see that your experiences would be different from mine. So, this is kind of saying that we go in these orders where, we really want to end up being culturally proficient and really not being culturally destructive. But it's still hard to really know, when am I competent to work for someone from a different culture than my own? And at what point, can I say that I'm culturally competent? So in therapy, there's different ways that we might do this. So we may take an evidence-based practice that we already have and adapt them for different cultures. And this has shown some effectiveness also in childhood disorders. And we do see that those adaptations are more effective than treatment as usual. So that's actually really good. So we have to really sometimes think about well, we know that CBT works for white children, but now does it work for Hispanic children? And how can I adapt that? And the reason why it might work better if I think about what's the differences here is that this may now take into consideration the client's view of the disorder. So we want to strive to be more culturally competent and understand all of those factors that might actually impact children. And this is just showing you that unfortunately our weird world of research does not emphasize this cultural competency. So our research is often done on Western educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic countries. So this is just showing you how many RCTs, so that's randomized control trials, there are in high-income communities, or countries, sorry, not communities, countries. And you can see that there's 600 different types of trials that are there. But at the same time, in low to middle income countries, you see less than 100. So there's a lot less randomized control trials even being done in lower to middle income countries, even though they're a greater part of the population. So again, we need to do a much better job at this point in time of actually expanding our research. So we really can do better. And I think one of the first things that we need to do is spreading awareness. So I'm spreading awareness in your class by having you watch videos on cultural competence. I want you to explore the cultural formulation interview, and that might be something, maybe taking a question or two in your interview of the kids might be good. And then we'll have you watch a video about cost of mental health care, about somebody who is really a strong advocate, but even getting access to care is almost impossible for this family. So spread awareness on this. I think it's really important that we consider how culture impacts every aspect of mental health, how it impacts whether or not you're coming in for treatment, and whether or not, you're more likely to develop a disorder. And I also want you to know yourself. So if you are considering going into the therapeutic field in any way, shape, or form, knowing yourself actually can really be helpful. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your module, and I will see you in class. Bye.